today we have Matthew Michael. He is a technical recruiter for Aerotek for the engineering division, and he is here to talk to you about the company as well as just some tips for students that are looking into getting into a career in the engineering division with Aerotek. Hi, Matthew. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you for joining us and just investing a little bit of your time and just your experience and your knowledge. As we have students, as you know, we're known for our engineering program here. And so we do have a lot of students that are really interested in finding out more from people like you that are already in the workforce and how you did it, how you got there, and just in specific to Aerotech. So take it away.
Yeah. So, like I said, appreciate you guys having me on. Myself, just a little bit of my background. Graduated from Ball State in 2016 with a sport administration degree. Kind of went a different route right after school. Went military first. So I did that for about a year with training and everything, and then getting back on the civilian side. When I came back, I kind of got away from the sports field, and Aerotek was a company that actually my dad, he's probably been working with them as a contractor for a good decade. So it was funny how I think the story is he sent my resume to his recruiter like when I was a sophomore in college. Said, hey, keep this guy on your radar when he graduates here in a few years, and lo and behold, a few years later, that kind of popped up when I was looking again, and went in, and like I said, different than the sports side of things that what I went into, but there's a good tie-in. I had a lot of business classes and everything, and learning this job was definitely a little difficult, but it's something. So far I've been there. I started in June of 2018 with Aerotek. And the biggest thing I was looking for coming out of college was just doing something to help others. And this definitely show. I mean, that you definitely get that with this job. I mean, I'm helping people in some of their most stressful times, when they're out of jobs or coming out of school looking for jobs. If I can just be a little part of that help, that means a lot to me. So it's like I said, it's been a difficult job. There's a lot of down days, but those days where you're able to find someone something, it makes it all worth it. But so far, really enjoyed things with Aerotek, and I actually just got back from overseas, so I'm kind of restarting Aerotek. I was there for about 10 months, left for about a year, and I just kind of got back into the grind here the last few weeks. Of course, I picked a great time to come back during all this coronavirus stuff. So yeah, really enjoying it so far.
Ask you something like some
Yeah.
more about Aerotek itself,
Yeah,
the
of course.
company,
Yeah.
and what do you do? What are the fields that the company is in? Just to understand some more about what the company does in general.
Yeah,
Of
of
course.
course. So, from start to finish, we work with, on the engineering side, I work with, um, my bread and butter. My territory is actually, like, I'd say the epicenter is kind of Elkhart area. So I work up kind of more in positions up there. But as far as engineering goes, we see a lot of, obviously, as you get closer to the Detroit area, um, it's just more and more automotive, right? So pretty much everything north of Fort Wayne, a lot of the business we do is automotive, but so that leads to a lot of the engineering positions that I recruit for, mechanical engineering, manufacturing, some quality engineering. I know, it's not necessarily my territory, but sometimes, working more in the Warsaw area, that's a huge area for the medical field. We have, a ton of big companies that are world-renowned in the medical field, such as like Zimmer Biomet, Dometics, stuff like that, DePuy. And so, sometimes I'll dip into more of the medical field, on that engineering side. But as far as what we're doing day to day, I mean, it starts basically, I have a direct partner. It's as simple as he finds a job, and then I go try to find someone to fill that position. Um, and obviously, it's a little bit more than that. On my side, it's from each day, I call X amount of people, trying to find someone who would be the best fit for that role. Um, and then after that, say I find someone, then it's working them through the process, helping them get prepared for an interview, making sure I'm reaching out to references that they provided me. At Aerotek, we also interview everybody, so whether it's via online, especially something we've done here a lot lately, or we can bring them into our office. We'll interview everybody before we send them to our clients. So at Aerotek, we definitely make sure we're sending the best candidates their way, and and sometimes that just means we need to help people a little bit more. But that's awesome. That's a lot of the fun. Prepping them for interviews and such. Like we'll tell them, hey, this might be a question you see, or this question. And then, after that, then, again, say we are able to luckily have someone land into a role, then we're working with them, continually, making sure everything's going well, making sure we're calling them, every week or so, getting feedback from our clients and so forth. And just making sure that we're being that sounding board, not only for our clients, but also for our candidates that we send through, and making sure that they're doing the job that was required of them.
Matthew, from all the talent that you see coming through your company, what would be some advice or some tips that you would give to prospect students that are wanting to work for your company or any company in engineering, tips that will help them stand out from the crowd? What are some things that you would suggest that they do, or how can they prepare in advance for that day where they meet the employer?
Yeah, well, first things foremost, obviously, step one is already kind of on track for, kids coming out of college as they're working to get their degree. That's going to set them apart, for sure. But, on top of that, a lot of employers really like to see, maybe different co-ops, maybe internships, stuff like that. And that's also something at Aerotek that we can help with. We do work with internships every now and then, and if the business is there with us, we'll definitely make sure we can help with that. But that's the main thing I'd say, is get that experience on your resume. Make sure that it doesn't even have to be at different places. Even if you're going to the same company each summer, to work again, make sure you're having that experience. Another thing I'd say is resumes are obviously a big one for individuals coming out of college. It's just kind of how it is. It was the same, when I came out of college. It's hard to build a resume when you don't have much. So really pulling forward school projects, putting that on resumes, making sure that your resume just looks better than everyone else around you. Because employers understand you're not going to have the experience of someone who graduated maybe in 2010 or 2005, stuff like that. So it's really making sure you're selling the strong points that you did in college for school projects. Making sure that everything is up to date. And that's another thing we'll help with at Aerotek too, that I didn't mention before, is we'll help with resume building. We'll help with that. We'll make sure we're really showing exactly what you did in college. So I'd say those are the biggest things for kids coming out here.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned a little bit about internships, which we're big into internships so that students can get the experience. And it is also a good way for students to know, do I really want to do this, every day for the rest of my life? It's just kind of a way to test the different paths that they can go with just one degree. could you talk a little bit more about the internships that are available with your company? Like what kind? Are they short-term, long-term? What is the process to get in? What do you guys look at?
Yeah, of course. And, first, before I get into that, I'll kind of jump off the point you just made. I think that was a point I forgot to add, but that's a great point. Another thing internships help with is, if you're in the engineering field, engineering is very broad, right? So, trying different internships, doing this and that can really help you find exactly what you want to do. Because, um, from one field to the other, whether it's medical versus automotive, they're completely different. So making sure you know what you want to do is incredibly important. And to your question, yeah, I mean, as far as what we have available, like I said, internships we don't work with as much. I'll be admittedly honest. We do work with more full-time roles. But that being said, a lot of what we have, it just depends on, the conversations that we have with our clients. We will see a lot of, around the summertime right now. This year's kind of different because of obviously the virus that's hit. But usually around summertime, we'll have some clients calling, hey, maybe we could, bring on somebody who, maybe is off for the summer, who's looking to get their degree here in the next couple of years. Bring them on for an internship. Like I said, a lot of the companies I deal with are on the automotive side. So that might be, I hope that kind of answers your question. For what we usually see on the internship side is usually kind of in that sweet spot in the summers. So maybe more like, 3-month roles. Every now and then a co-op as well, which are, very similar. So definitely, I mean, obviously, I think college students would agree summertime is the best time to go get that experience if they can. So.
Yeah, thank you. No, I mean, all companies, treat them differently. There are specific seasons where they will hire. They have a specific number of students that they can hire. So it does help for students to know how Aerotek, how they deal with internships based on what your customers are looking for. So it's good to know summer would be the time where you want to look into it, as you may have higher chances of finding something in that regard. Do you have any other questions, Danny? Danny is our one of our students here at Indiana Tech, and he also works in our office, and he happens to be studying engineering. So
awesome.
I know that he can probably speak on a lot of what students are questions that they may have, and maybe get a little bit clarification with that. So Danny, do you have any questions that you tend to hear with classmates or in the classroom that may help our student population?
Yes, this is actually a question from me that I tend to have, and I probably already talked to Mariana about this, and this is something that that I think on a daily basis. So you said you talked about experience and how it is important to students that are either pursuing their degree or their recent graduates to have that experience. And sometimes it is hard for students to get that because, as we all know, it's cyclic. So you need experience in your resume to get a job, but you need a job to put some previous experience in your resume.
Yeah.
And you talked about summer internships at Aerotek. I wanted to know how do you try to judge, not in a bad way, but how do you try to judge the student and their how capable they are, other than looking at previous experiences? So looking at maybe courses and activities that might not relate directly to the field of study.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Yeah, I kind of alluded to that a little bit with when it comes to your resume, it's kind of the unfortunate reality of things is obviously when you're in college, um, it's tough to highlight your experience when it's, hey, I'm going to school, basically, 9 to 5 most day. Where do I get that experience from? And I kind of, mentioned part of that is, you can highlight your school projects and not just what the project was, but what you were doing specifically. Another way we can tell is I mentioned as well that we do interview everybody um, that we're talking with on the phone. We interview them prior to sending them to our clients. So getting a gauge of what an individual knows, maybe what they're still working on, and how they are interpersonally is a big part of our process. It's just and that's something I actually before this call I was talking to Mariana actually last year. I made a trip to Indiana Tech, and we helped. I helped a few individuals that go through mock interviews. So that's something definitely. Uh, if at Aerotek we have a few offices where we can kind of conduct interviews. I mean, I don't think it'd ever be a problem. Someone like, hey, you know what? Can I, take just 10 minutes or something to kind of work on an interview. Um, because that is a big part. Is like, you go to a client, you're not going to have much experience, but can you sell yourself? Can you sell yourself saying, hey, I think I'm good for this role. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to learn, and let's make it happen. So, really selling yourself, not making your, not getting down on yourself that you don't have the experience is important. Saying, hey, I know I don't have this experience yet, but I think I'm good for this role because of X, Y, Z. So I hope that answers your question.
It did. Yes. Thank you.
Cool. No problem.
You mentioned mock interviews, and that's really one of our biggest events.
Yeah.
Yet, it's one of those events that is hard to get students to see the value, because I think for some of them, it's kind of like, well, I'm not ready for a job, so why would I do one? Or I'm terrified. I'm not going to do one until I really have to, so once I'm already trying to find a job, then I'll deal with it. Why do you guys do mock interviews? Why do you think students should do mock interviews? I want them to hear from an employer. We tell them, but I feel like sometimes it's good that they hear from an employer, from your perspective, so that they can see why we do them.
Yeah. I mean, simple answer is, I mean, and you'll see this as you go on more with your career as well, as, you're competing against someone else. And sometimes, resume versus resume is pretty, tight. It's close. I mean, we have someone who, two individuals who, on paper are pretty similar, really good job experience. And you can win that job by your interview. And interviews, plain and simple, they're not fun. They're tough. There's a lot of nerves that go in with them. And I think mock interviews help because, it's not going to eliminate those nerves. You're always going to have that no matter what position, but mock interviews are so important because continuing to build on your interview skills is just going to help, for years to come. And no matter how many you do, there's still something you can probably improve. And here's the other thing: when it comes to interviews, they're like I said, they can be very nerve-wracking. I myself, even conducting interviews on the other side, that can be a little nerve-wracking too. So I just think mock interviews, are so important. I always try myself to continually, try to practice that. Usually on the flip side, where I'm the interviewer. But I mean, like I said, just simple answer is they could be the difference between you getting a job and not. Because you'll see, there's a lot of talented individuals out there, and they know how to sell themselves on paper. But just some are better than others when it comes to that interview portion. So I think that's incredibly important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great point. For students to know, mock interview is a safe environment. This is where you can mess up, because
Yeah.
you're there to help them and just assist as they are, and as they are answering questions, or they chose the attire that they chose. They bring the resume for you to be able to say, um, let me help you, let me give you some advice on all these different things, so that when you do have a real mock interview and you're going to meet an employer, you've already covered your bases. So
Yeah.
we do appreciate all of our employer partners. We appreciate you for coming to those events to help our students with those things. So any final thoughts, any last comments about company, the field, that you would like to share with our students as we close on our time here together?
Yeah. Just honestly, not to repeat myself a lot, but, for myself, I did not go to Indiana Tech. So actually a lot of my experience kind of with the university has been since I've been with Aerotek. Like I said, I went to the school last year to help with that. And, just first and foremost, I kind of, like you said, Mariana, taking advantage of what Indiana Tech provides is extremely important. I think in the short time that I've known Indiana Tech, I can definitely tell that their engineering, at least on the engineering side, they're definitely trying to help all the students there. And obviously Indiana Tech is prides itself on its engineering field, but making sure you're taking those. And I've been a college student too. I know it's can get difficult to give up free time, but making sure that you are taking the advantages that Indiana Tech's offering, the mock interviews and such, as an example, is extremely important, because it's only going to help you down the line when it comes to businesses. Like I said, you come out of school, unfortunately, it is what it is. You're just not going to have the experience as others, but making sure that you're as well prepared to beat your competition is going to hopefully land you that job at least a lot quicker than your counterparts. So I guess that's what I would kind of say for that. So.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your expertise and your knowledge. I'm sure we'll be seeing more of you.
Yes, hopefully. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you.
Awesome, guys. Hey, thank you so much for having me on.
All right, Danny, can you stop the recording now?